Hi everyone, welcome to day 2 of the Wet Show 2023. Today's guest is Rusty Nazat.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, how you doing, Rusty?
Good, doing good, doing good.
Welcome to the Wet Show. We're
Show.
excited to have you. Nick Spano is here, and going to help us talk about the safety, equipment safety, things like that, and public works safety.
Absolutely.
I think that's what you
Yeah, we got to keep the dung beetles safe.
You're passionate about this. I want to learn more about how you got into the public works
Well, it started a long, long time ago, back when I had hair.
Okay.
I was 13 years old. My dad dropped me in my first manhole.
Okay.
And I'm down in there, and there was a big doo-doo on the bench.
Oh, jeez.
And I told my dad, I said, "Hey, there's a doo-doo down here." He said, "Just kick it off in the water." I said, "I ain't touching that."
Just kick it off.
So he dropped me a stick. He said, "Here, take this stick and rake it off. Go back to work." Yeah, okay.
Imagining him.
That was my first time going in the manhole.
I'm imagining him hanging you from like your suspenders.
Yeah, how'd that work?
Well, they put a rope on me and dropped me down in there. We were doing manhole grouting. He was teaching me how to drill the holes and pump the grout.
Okay.
Do the grout curtains.
Wow.
Yeah, 13.
That's
I've been doing a
when you
long
started.
time, yeah.
You got me beat. I started at 15,
Yeah.
pushing sludge in a sludge tank. That was gross.
Oh, there you go. My dad was involved in, he had his own company, a rehabilitation company, and he had been doing it for, my God, almost all his entire life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm second generation dung beetle.
Okay. I like how you called it the dung beetle.
Yeah,
You
dung beetle.
started that. Can you
Yeah.
describe that a little bit more, how that
Well,
started?
yeah, dung beetles. Okay, so I travel around the country, and these guys, people who clean sewers call themselves sewer rats, turd herders, turd busters, and I just thought that was really nasty. So one day I saw a video of a dung beetle pushing a dung ball. I go, whoa, there we go. We're going to call them dung beetles from now on. We're going to upgrade them. So we even had stickers made, like dung beetle stickers. You can stick them on your hard hat.
I love that you brought props to the podcast interviews.
Rusty is a pro.
I'm waiting to see the dinosaur helmet come out, or hat come
No,
out somewhere.
Kim will not let me bring that because
She
I wear it in
wouldn't
the
let you?
show sometime, and she says, you can't do it.
Can't do that.
Yeah,
Can't
she
do
said I
that.
need boundaries. I'm saying, I wear a dinosaur head and make videos. How can you have boundaries?
That's true. That's very true. We're going to talk about that some more. So it sounds like your dad was an entrepreneur in the industry for a long time. You started at 13,
Right.
in manholes doing repairs,
Right.
Which is wow, that's amazing.
Right.
And then you've seen what was the industry like back then versus where it is now?
Oh, dear God. It was horrible. I mean, we had no safety. We didn't know what a harness was. They dropped the ladder in the manhole, and they always tell you, if you see those cockroaches in there and they're looking around, you're good. If they're alive, you're going to be alive too. You're good. Just jump on down in there. That's what they tell us.
I didn't think about the air monitoring.
Yeah, and the cockroaches, we found out later, don't require as much oxygen level as a human does. So that's really not true.
Yeah, that's a good measure.
Yeah, we were very fortunate that we survived. My dad almost didn't survive one time.
Wow.
We were doing a line, a 48-inch line, and the guy had a jetter in there. It was all plugged up. It was offline. They'd taken it offline, and he hit a gas pocket, and all the gas came back on him, and he collapsed in the manhole. But fortunately, the young man that was there with him, there was an air compressor there, so he grabbed the hose and threw the hose down in the manhole and turned the compressor on, so Dad could get air.
Wow.
They finally got him out of the hole, but the whites of his eyes, it took 2 or 3 months before you ever saw the whites of his eyes again.
Oh, wow.
In fact, the doctors told him, they said, "Hey, Mr. Nazat," they said, "the only reason you're not dead is because God said it wasn't time for you to die. He said you had so much hydrogen sulfide in your system, you should be dead. You should not be walking."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing
Yeah.
story.
And
Wow.
then, so then after that, they bought us a couple of harnesses and started teaching us how to do it properly, slowly.
Okay.
It took years for that to come about, though.
So that's kind of where the safety comes into what you're doing now, and really passionate about making sure people are safe out there with sewer work.
Because I love dung beetles. I'm second generation, and I've traveled the country for years now, providing training and evaluations for different sewer groups. And the sewer people have been in the bottom of the rung. I mean, if you look around and try and find training for collection system workers who clean sewers, you're not going to find much of anything.
Right.
In fact, I'm about the only thing that's going to pop up.
Right.
So many years ago, 20, 30 years ago, I decided I was going to start doing training and building training programs because we're just having too many people injured. And I mean, I've spoken to thousands of operators, and I always ask them, I said, hey, I got in my classroom and I go, hey, when you were little, did you ask your parents for a little tiny combination machine for Christmas so you could build a little sewer system out in the front yard, dig some holes in some manholes and drive around and suck it out? They all laugh. They go, no. I said, well, how'd you get why are you in the sewer? They said, some of them say, well, we like it, and the other ones say, well, it pays the bills.
Yeah.
And so I said, anybody grow up wanting to be a sewer cleaner? I've never, out of all the thousands, no one raises their hand and says, yeah, I want to be a sewer cleaner.
No.
So they all got into the industry one way or another.
Right.
And you know, it's a thing. It's something that has to be done. We have to maintain the collection systems. So when you find people who want to do this, I love those people because, you know, I love cleaning sewer. They're not, listen,
Yeah.
they ain't nothing like, get out there cleaning that big pipe and you hear all that gravel going up the suction tube.
Yeah.
I love it. But when you find people who want to do that, you need to provide them the things that they need.
Yeah.
And one of them is just basic training. Because I get phone calls often from around the country and said, hey, Rusty, can you come train my people? I said, when? They say, next week.
Oh, wow.
And I say, well, who got hurt? What happened? Well, what do you mean? I said, no one moves that fast. Yeah, we had a nozzle come up out of the manhole, stuck under the guy's arm and ripped all the hide off of him.
Ooh.
I said,
Wow.
yeah, okay, I'll be there next week. But I'm getting a lot of those calls, and the really bad incidents, this is how it goes down. I asked the city, I said, well, how did this play out? They said, the lawyers showed up,
Yeah.
and they asked us, they said, where's your documented training where you train these people the dangers of these high pressure sewer systems they're using? They said, we don't have any. So they sit down with their checkbook, they say, and they write out a check, every one of them. It's a blank check because they have no recourse.
No.
And that's still going on today. Very few cities have any kind of training for their guys who run these trucks.
That's amazing.
It
Nick,
is.
I like. So you're selling equipment. You're in the public works, right? Do you have like obviously training them how to use cameras and things like that? Is there another? Do you educate them on the? Because you sell vectors too, you know, the jet trucks. Gap vacs. Okay, sorry, got the right word.
You came all wired up over here.
So is there a training program like Gap Vac sells or talks to these guys when they
Well,
buy
actually,
the
Rusty
units?
does a whole series of training on using the combo trucks.
Okay.
And I think everybody kind of relies on him. I mean, we have operations training,
Okay.
which is going to train you, you know, how to use the truck, basic safety, right?
Yeah.
This is a high pressure hose. Like, I mean, there's warnings and things. And
Right.
if I'm walking around and doing a, you know, introductory, you know, visit with a city who's just bought one, of course, we're going to talk about a safe way to do it.
Right.
But, you know, as an equipment provider, that's really not our specialty.
Okay.
I've done confined space training in the past. I do PACP training.
Okay.
But really, there is, like Rusty said, there's not a lot of pre-built safety programs.
Yeah. That's it. So, Rusty, I want to go back a little bit after you were 13 and working for your dad. And did you have your own company when you were older? Like,
No,
how'd that work?
I worked for a company called Channel Construction. They were a rehab company. I went to work for In Situ Form Technologies. And worked for those guys out of Houston for several years. And then they sent me to this really cool program. It's called Continuous Improvement Process. And so we went there, and I was already cleaning pipe. I was their pipe cleaner, their head pipe cleaner.
Yeah.
And so they sent me that, and I came back and said, hey, y'all spent all this money on this class. I said, this is what I want to do. I said, I want to set up a working sewer system above ground, put all this dirt and rock and gravel, and I said, I want to see how these nozzles are functioning in the pipe, and then create training programs so we can improve our daily production. So they said, yeah, okay, you can do that. So I went and bought a piece of pipe, and I cut it in half, and I set it up on jack stands in the back. And I called out one operator, said, you're going to spend the day with me? He says, okay. So I give him a water hose with a little squirter, and I said, this pipe's half full of sand. I said, I want you to clean it out for me today. And I come back at lunch, and he was still trying to clean it out.
Oh, wow.
Because he would start all the way in the back and try and wash all that sand over the sand. So I'd show up with about 35 minutes left in the day. I said, is that how you clean pipe? He goes, yeah. I said, let me show you a better way. I walked down to the end of the pipe. I got a little piece. I went, whoosh, washed it out, and walked it all the way back, and the pipe was clean in 30 minutes. He'd been there all day, and he goes, oh, I'm getting what you're saying now. And so we expanded on that, and then we set up a working sewer system, where I filled the pipe full of gravel and rock and then cut the tops out and then set up cameras to see what the nozzle was doing. And what we found out was that these nozzles have carrying capacities, which we rate in cubic feet of material. So I can tell you how much that nozzle can carry. So if I know about what's in the pipe, I've got a matrix set up that I teach the guys on, so that they'll go in a certain distance and come out, so they don't exceed the carrying capacity of the nozzle. Now, Nick can probably attest to this. So when you watch videos, here's what you see. The only 3 ways you see videos. You get in the pipe, it's clean all the way to the end. That's a good day.
Right.
And then you get in there and you go, it's dirty, it's got a pile, it's clean, it's dirty. And the other way you see it is when they're from the upstream to the downstream, the first 250 foot is clean, but the last 50 foot's chunk full of rock and gravel. And so that's only 3 ways you'll see it when you TV. So I explain to my class, and I show them video what's causing that. And they're like, oh, wow, yeah, okay. Because I always get these old guys. I'm old, but I don't think I'm old. Anyway, I'll go to the city, and they'll call me in the back and cuss me out.
Yeah.
I mean, cuss me like an animal. I've been doing this for 30 years. Ain't a damn thing you can show me. I said, listen, I don't know everything they know. I don't know everything about sewer cleaning. I said, I hope to learn something from you today, because there's some stuff you know I don't know.
Yeah.
And they all, without exception, at the end of the class, they always come and find me. They go, man, I'm so sorry. They said, but you know, no one ever showed me what you showed me. I could go clean that 24-inch pipe today. The one I couldn't clean, I could go clean it today. So they always come and apologize.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I compare it to like a shovel. I'm trying to describe it to people.
Yeah.
Like if you have a pile of sand that you got to move from here to here,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how far you stick in the shovel. Once your shovel's full,
Yeah.
that's all you're moving. And
But if they're pulling it back, right, and they're pulling out the debris, and they're in the manhole, if they don't have something there to catch all that.
Well, it's the vacuum system. That's
Oh,
what
the
you
vacuum.
got.
vacuum tubes, catch
Okay.
baskets.
I was just making sure everybody kind of understands how it actually works as you
Yeah.
pull back the debris.
Yeah, the
So-
vacuum sucks it up.
so-
Back in the day, we used buckets and shovels.
Right, you used to on a rope, right, and then
On a rope. I spent
I've
many
seen that
days in the
before.
bottom of a manhole loading
Yeah.
up buckets. Yeah.
Okay, interesting question. Nozzles. Okay, is there I assume that all nozzles are pretty much the same. You're gonna say otherwise. So what's going on with the nozzles?
Oh. Well, there's about 5 basic nozzles that you need on the truck.
Okay.
So you need one that can take debris out of a small diameter pipe.
Okay.
And the dual angle jet, like a Shamrock tadpole or a polywog, they work extremely well. And then you have the ones you got to get the grease off the line, out of the pipe. And this is where it goes bad for so many cities. They buy these expensive spinning nozzles.
Yeah.
If you tell me it's a spinning nozzle, I'm going to tell you don't even buy it, because spinning nozzles don't function properly. So you want a nozzle that has a controlled rotation, because you want the water stream straight.
Right.
So in our program, I'll show them side by side like a warthog. I say, look at this warthog, and it's spinning, blowing water. I go, this is broke. They go, well, that's what mine looks like. I said, okay, let's click this one on. And then they see the individual water streams, and I go, that one's functioning properly, because what happens is once you bend the water stream over, you're hitting with the back of the water stream, so you've lost 80% of the power of the nozzle, or the water stream. But if it's straight on, it's just like, it'd be like me walking up to Nick and just slapping him with the back of my hand and then running away. But I walk up and I punched him on the head, full force with all my body power behind it. I probably could knock him down and I could walk away maybe and not have to run as fast.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what happens with the water stream. Once you break the water stream over, you got nothing. You're wasting your time with that nozzle.
Interesting.
And then we have the large diameter nozzles for
Well,
cleaning.
you have different types of rotating nozzles now.
Oh yeah, you do.
got
You
your,
have a
like,
Primus, you
liquid,
have a
you got your liquid rotating nozzles, and you have like mechanical.
mechanical,
rotating.
and hydraulic. That you got several of them that are on the market. But whatever it is that you have on the market, you need to make sure that it's rotating properly. If it's just spinning like crazy, you're wasting
Yeah,
your time.
it's not supposed to just wildly spin.
No,
It's supposed to
no.
be a controlled rotation.
So, control rotation.
I mean, I can't speak for all the nozzles, but
Yeah.
the ones we sell, and they also have multiple angles of the water.
Yeah.
So it's not just a 90.
Right,
It's usually
right.
a combination of 90 degrees and 45 degrees. And like Rusty's saying, basically, it's like what makes a nozzle a tool for a different job.
Yeah.
It's the degree in which you're spraying the water back towards the truck.
Absolutely.
What kind of maintenance is required on these nozzles? Obviously, you sell them. You probably know what it would take. I mean,
Which one are you selling?
We sell the Ends brand.
The ends,
Okay.
okay.
And there's no maintenance required on that other than replacing the skids once they wear out.
How do you control the rotation of the head?
It's a mechanical controlled
It's all
rotation
controlled?
inside
Okay,
of it.
mechanical.
Yeah.
Okay.
interesting.
It's not really no maintenance parts.
Wow. That's
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
And that's really like key difference. The hydraulically or oil driven ones.
Right, or a ceramic brake system.
You basically got to change the oil in them.
Yeah.
Okay.
At some point.
I've seen them seized up. Obviously, when we were out using them in our construction and jetting, and we'd
Yeah.
have nozzles seizing up
We used to have to keep them in a bucket of hydraulic oil
just to keep them
so when
up.
we needed it, we could take it out and they work.
Makes sense.
But
So-
anyway, nozzles are very interesting. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we try to educate our customers on is you don't just buy a nozzle. Like, what are you trying to do? What do
So-
you already have?
Yeah.
And how are you? What's your main problem? Like Rusty was saying, is it grease? Is it stuff stuck to the walls,
Right.
or is it heavy? Is it large quantities of sand or silt?
So when you get into large diameter, what you're looking for is a spray pattern in the bottom of the pipe. So if you don't have a good spray pattern in the bottom, they'll leave gaps so that the jet is not hitting that pile of sand. So when you're done, you still have a 4-inch gap all the way down with 2 inches of sand, and none of the orifices are hitting that. The water streams aren't hitting it. That's not a good nozzle.
Got it. Got it. That's good to know.
Most of them on the market are really good now, and we show all the guys the videos of what that looks like.
Yeah.
In fact, they know more about the nozzle guys hate me because they show up. They go, man, we saw that. We saw your nozzle in that pipe. We're not buying your nozzle.
Yeah.
Now you also have a educational course on step cleaning, right? Or that's part of it.
Well, we changed it from step cleaning to nozzle capacity. Step cleaning's been around forever. They always call about step cleaning. So I'll go in a class and say, okay, 15-inch line, half full of sand, 300 foot long. What nozzle are you going to use, and how far are you going to go in? 50, 60 foot is usually the answer. I said, well, that nozzle that you're using can only move this many cubic feet of material. You can only go in 10 foot. You go, really? I said, how long did it take you to clean that pipe? Took us about 5 days to clean that pipe. It should have been cleaned in 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
Because they're just pulling sand over sand. You cannot, physics won't allow you to pull sand over sand. It's got to travel along the bottom
Makes
of the
sense.
pipe.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you have to do it.
That and the sheer time of, they always say shoot out fast, pull back slow.
Yeah.
But again, to Rusty's point, pulling back slow doesn't matter if you are just leaving the debris in the pipe. But the guys that are shooting way further, either the brand new guy, he just shoots end to end.
End to
Well,
end.
He'll
running
sit
it
there
up.
all day,
Oh, yeah.
end to end.
End to end.
And then so what I did was I made like an Excel table where I could plug in the length of the pipe and the distance of the step clean, and then approximated times, and you can show the guys like this is how much longer it takes. If you have to make 10 full length passes, you have to remember you're just sitting there for 400 feet of pulling back at a
I've
a
seen
foot
guys
every 2
come
seconds.
out only 3 times in a day. They pulled so slow they came out of the pipe 3 times in a day. I was dying sitting there watching because when I'm doing evaluation, I don't try and teach. Because once they see the videos, then they're like, oh. But to try and talk to them before they see the videos, it's a waste of your time.
Think about the responsibility, the accountability that is needed for these sewer systems. I have spoken to a ton of cities. One particular was in Minnesota, and we're talking. They had 150 miles of sanitary sewer, and I was asking them how they were cleaning their pipe. Like, what are you doing for your maintenance? How's that going? Like, how do you have any sewer overflows? They're like, nope. We get through our system every year. 150 miles of pipe, 1 vac truck, 2 guys. How does that add up with vacations and everything else? Think about the weeks. And I know I'm going towards where you're going, right? With this time of cleaning, we're going to talk about that. But they literally got themselves in a bind because the guys were reporting back that they were cleaning the pipe through going through and cleaning all the pipe through the whole year, 1 year.
But they weren't televising, were they?
They weren't televised. They were running.
That's easy. I can do that.
They run the
I can
nozzle.
mind mail that from the room.
Well, the public works director is going back to the leadership and saying, we're proactive. We're cleaning the pipe. There's no issues. They were still having overflows, and they were still having backups, but they couldn't put 2 and 2 together that they weren't cleaning the pipe. And then finally, they
were they even dropping the vacuum tubes in?
I don't know, but I can assume it wasn't well done.
I go to cities that have backups in the same place all the time. I say, well, show me the nozzle you're using. They'll pull out a penetrator that's 15 degree. And a 15 degree nozzle in an 8-inch line full of grease will only make a 2.5, 3-inch diameter hole. That's all it will do because of the angle of the jets.
Yeah.
They're just knocking a small hole, and within a month they'll be going back there because that hole will heal itself. Because you already got grease issues anyway, and as it comes in through that little hole, the grease sticks to grease real easy.
Yeah.
It'll plug back off within a month. That's why it's so important to. And I find that happens a lot as I travel around the country.
Wow.
In fact, I went to Guam.
Really?
I went to Guam, and they had a nozzle. They've been working 10 hours. Sewer was going everywhere.
Yeah.
They've been working 10 hours trying to unplug this. They finally got the water down, and I show up, and I brought a couple rotation nozzles with me. And they said, hey, we've been out there all day. We still got a bunch of grease in this line. I said, well, Will that nozzle? I say, the nozzle will take it out. So they're kind of standoffish from me. So we go out there, they put the TV camera in, they run up, and they said, okay, put the truck over here. So I get a load of water, and I went down and got the nozzle. I put it on, and I said, okay, y'all follow us back. I'll show them how to run the nozzle. So we ran up, we came back one pass, and then I'm looking at the guys in the TV rig, and they're all out of the TV rig, and they're holding their heads, and they're looking up into the air. And I asked the guy, I said, do they have gas issues with that truck or something down there? Do they have, something's wrong with them? So I walked down there and said, what's wrong with you guys? And he goes, they go, you cleaned the pipe in one pass. All the grease is gone. They said, we would have never believed it.
Holy smokes! Wow.
And so they said, we have lots of other places. So I was supposed to be doing an evaluation. For 3 days, they drugged me all over Guam, knocking out all these grease blocks with the nozzle.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, look,
It's really just an education thing because some guys don't know. There's just a
It's just
different
they do
tool
not
for the
know.
particular thing you're dealing with.
right? That's a big educational. That's like an annual, reoccurring education you have to keep up on these. This training every year. Just to
And that's
make
what we
sure
teach
you
them in
guys
our 102 class. We have the blockages module. It's all modularized where you build one thing on the next. So we start off with safety, like plugging, then sewer hose, and then we go into cleaning and nozzles. So one thing builds on the next. And once they understand how nozzles work, then we take them into cleaning big pipe and running blockages and that sort of thing. And the cool thing about the online training is if they get a question wrong, it loops them back into the video. They got to watch it again. Now, they can't change their answer because we want to know if we got good comprehension or not.
Right.
But they got to go back in and watch it again. So we've had a lot of good results.
I like it.
Cities have called me and said, wow, our guys have really improved their cleaning.
That's awesome. Well,
we put our whole sales staff through Rusty's course.
okay. That's great.
Just to give them a jump start on some of the stuff they might have missed.
Yeah. Oh, it's needed because we're still dealing with overflows. We're obviously not. From the way it sounds, you're talking about 40 to 50 minutes a day cleaning in some of your your website said.
So we'd go out and do time lapse video. I'd set my camera up everywhere we go. I'd set up the camera and I ran it. And what I realized was that they were only filling up. The national average is 3 times a day. As I travel around the country, I say, how many times a day do you fill up? They say, especially if I have a director in the office, in the program, they go 3 times a day. They go 3 times a day. I said, 1,000-gallon water tank? Yeah. So 3,000 divided by 80 gallons a minute, which is what the pump runs. They say, yeah, we run 80 gallons a minute. So you divide 80 into 3,000, it's less than probably like 40 minutes a day.
Wow.
And so that's the national average right now. And the directors are all going, that's how, when I walk in, they call me in for my sales pitch. I make that sales pitch and they go, I've had them all just get up and walk out. The director walked out, everybody else left, and I'm sitting there going, oh, what am I going to do now?
I was going to say, I don't know if that's good or
I was going to leave, and they came back in, the guy stuck his head in, and he says, hey, how soon can you be here? Give us a proposal.
He wanted to check with them and see if they're actually filling up 3 times a day. Oh, wow.
Well, I let them give it, so when I go make my sales pitch, I ask everybody in the room, the superintendent, how many times a day? So they give me the numbers, and I said, okay, let me get my calculator out. Click, 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 click. 40 minutes a day you're cleaning.
I always thought
they have no idea.
I always thought it was amazing. You pull up to a public works department and the jetter's parked in the garage every time you go there, and then you walk up to them and you start talking, having conversations. Like, how often do you clean your pipe? They're like, oh yeah, we get through a whole system. I heard this all the time. Like, I guess it was just an objection to a salesperson. Like, oh well, our system's great, right? It's magical. Everything's fine. But that jetter is sitting in that. Like,
a lot of jetters are sitting there because they're broken.
What's going on?
I travel around the country. 60%, on average, 60% of the units are broken down in the yard.
Wow.
It's either a computer system issue, a regen system issue, or maybe a transfer case issue. But that's the 3 biggest issues that we have with them.
Wow.
And the transfer case is because they weren't trained properly how to engage a transfer case. And you walk out there and you go, okay, turn it on. You hear guys going, stop, stop, stop. I go, that's not good. Well, it does that every day. I go,
oh my.
And then they're replacing transfer cases. Yeah.
So what's so is that lack of maintenance, Nick? Like what's training
a lot of
again?
times it's just not following the directions.
They're just not
following
engaging it
directions.
properly.
Again, can't speak for everybody, but we have step-by-step instructions in the truck that'll show you how to.
Do you think it's part of the hiring process? We're not bringing in the guys that want to be proactive and really invested in their job. I'm just curious. It's a loaded question for you because I think I know your answer. But
well, who wants to clean sewer? So
exactly.
Usually there's always opening in the sewer department. they'll get hired in there, and within 6 months they transfer out.
Yeah.
Like they're in there long enough, they're going to find another job, and they're out of there. I mean, who wants to smell like poo-poo every day?
Well,
2,000 psi jetters blowing poop all over you. At the end of the day, you smell like a walking turd.
And not for
Yeah.
$26 an hour.
We have to do a better job of elevating the importance of
Absolutely.
these positions in our society. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about that yesterday.
Robotic technicians, right?
Yeah,
Stuff
yeah.
like that.
Just-
That's
we
the
have to-
future.
Yeah, we got to.
Sewer technicians.
Exactly.
I mean, we
I mean,
have
it's-
that.
yeah,
We don't call. We
Yeah.
don't have a a name for
Well,
sewer
you
guys.
don't even have any training for those guys.
Right.
We had all of our programs approved there by the states around the country, so they can get their CEU credits.
Yeah.
And when we checked in with those people, those entities that approve it, they all said we don't have anything for sewer. I said, well, how are the sewer guys getting their CEUs? They said they all take the water classes. There's never been anything offered for sewer. I said, come on.
Sewer. Illinois was like that.
And so
Illinois
now,
just
so now we
changed,
get
like,
people calling us all the
couple
time and say,
years
hey,
ago.
we found you in our catalog. Do you really train on sewer? We go, yeah, we do sewer.
Yeah. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. And
that's
so,
it.
so now we're getting a lot of feedback from different people around the country. And
Yeah.
they found us in the catalog.
So where do you think we can improve, Rusty?
Man, I would start off with speccing the equipment properly, and then training the people that you have. Because one of the biggest things is we lose people on our side, on the sewer side, because their friend got killed or they got injured.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had attorneys call me. I mean, I get calls often from different cities that tell me their horror stories. Like I was just in a city last week
Yeah.
to go do training, or I'm putting a program together, and they call me in the office and they pulled up their phone. It was this guy's face that was cut from the top all the way through his lip to his chin.
Wow.
Took him 75 stitches to put him back together, knocked all his teeth out. And they said, can you help us with this? I said, lateral line cleaning? He said, yeah. Came back out and hit him in the face. I said, yeah, and I hear these stories all the time. I have thousands of stories.
Right.
And that he was never properly trained. He was put out there with a 3,000 psi, half-inch hose that'll kill you in a heartbeat. They're super fast when they get away, and he was never properly trained. And,
Wow.
And then the guys who die with the plugs.
I was going to ask you about the plugs.
So, so there's two dangers with plugs. There's the pressure inside the plug, and there's the pressure behind the plug. I was in Florida a couple months ago doing training for Hillsborough County, and the guy raised his hand and said, hey, we just had someone killed with the plug. I said, really?
Wow.
They said, yeah. I said, well, what happened? And I did the research on it, and what happened was the guy, they installed a 60-inch plug, and it only required 3 pounds of pressure. For some reason, he put 14 psi in it, and then he went down into the pit and stood in front of it. I think I calculated something like 7 million pounds of force in it. So when it exploded, it shot him like 300 foot up the other pipe. But he had no idea that PSI was, you think, well, my bicycle tire does 35 PSI. I ain't scared of that. But it's pounds per square inch. That plug had several 100,000 square inches in it. So once you
Wow.
multiply that out,
Right.
then that's your calculation for how much pressure's in there. So it blew him down the pipe. And I got, people get their faces blown off. And I've only found one survivor of a plug explosion with them in the hole when it went off. It was an 8-inch plug. He survived. He had to have 13 operations. Then another city called me up and said, can you come train our people on plugging? I said, yeah, I can do that.
Wow.
When you want me there? Next week. And I knew their people. I said, tell me what happened. I was upset. They said, because I already trained them on some plugs, and they go, well, it wasn't our people. It wasn't one of ours, Rusty. I said, okay, great, because I know them all personally. They said, it was a contractor. I said, what happened? They said, he had about 15, 20 foot ahead behind an 18-inch plug. Well, he wrapped the rope around his arm. When he pulled the plug, he had like 8,000 pounds of force, several thousand pounds of force behind the plug. It blew through the pipe. He can't get his arm out of it. So it crushed, he was 250 pounds, that's what I am. It crushed him down into the 18-inch pipe and took him 6.2 miles to the treatment plant.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. I even called up OSHA after that, and I said, it took me 3 days to get through to OSHA. I said, hey, we're killing our dung beetles, our collection system workers. I said, these plugs are either exploding and killing them, or they're dragging them down the pipe, and there is no training. The cities are not mandated to train them on it. I said, nor the manufacturer. And they said, well, Rusty, I said, nothing's on your website about this. They said, well, Rusty, we just consider it a job site fatality. I said, but they're dying every year. They said,
Wow.
well, we're really not interested in that, and they hung up on me. Oh, I was so mad.
Wow.
So now I've taken it upon myself. That's why we have that 5-minute video.
Yeah.
That if you go to my website, you can just send it to anybody that you want. Just put their address in there. We don't track that, so we're not trying to market off of it. We just want the dung beetles to have a fighting chance while they're out there.
Yeah. Wow. That's your amazing passion, and you're very emotional, and
Well,
we need guys like
I
you
love
out
these
there to
people.
do
I
this. Yeah.
love people in general, but I really love the dung beetles.
Yeah. Well, you grew up in.
Yeah, I grew up with
you
the
know,
Dung
you started
Beetles.
there, and that's you're doing great things, Rusty,
Yeah.
for sure. It's amazing. Do you think I have? I know we got a little bit more time. I don't know how long we got. A couple more minutes.
I think we got a couple more minutes.
Hey, I'm good. I got no place to go.
There I go, slamming down on the table. Oh, I was going to ask about the nozzles because is there a standardization or is there something we could do to better educate or better give guidance on like what nozzles would be recommended?
Well, I try not to recommend specific nozzles, so to speak. I do own
Right.
a couple, but I'll just tell them the angle of the jets, because it's all about the angle of the jets and the weight of the nozzle. Okay?
Yeah.
You know, if you put one of those small nozzles in there without an extension, it'll go like this through the pipe. It'll go right up a lateral. It'll come out the top of the house. I've seen them come out the top of the house.
Yeah.
And if you don't put an extension on there, they will turn in the pipe. In fact, I was up in Michigan a couple years ago. And there was this big guy come in. I was at Jack Dehaney's place, and they were having one of their little open houses. And I was kind of in a hallway, and no one was in there. And this guy come walking up to me. And I'm looking up at him, and he says, "You that guy that teaches people about nozzles?" I said, "He's a farmer." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Well, I want to show you something." So he starts taking his jacket off.
Yeah.
Now he's undoing his bib coveralls.
Oh,
The
wow.
flap falls down. I'm looking around now. I'm like, oh, what am I going to see? I'm nervous. And he starts unbuttoning his shirt, and I'm going. And then I saw the scar. It started right here.
Oh wow.
And then he unbuttoned his shirt all the way down to his belly button, and he had a scar from way down here all the way to here.
Oh my goodness.
I said, "My God." I said, "What happened to you?" He says, "Everywhere you go, Rusty," he says, "I want you to promise me you'll tell them boys my story." He said, "Tell me a story." He said, "I had a jetter, was out with my jetter, one of the small jetters," and he said, "I didn't put my extension on that morning. I dropped it in the manhole." He said, "When I fired it up, next thing I knew, that nozzle came out of the manhole, was under my jacket. I could feel the pain." He said, "I hit the stop button and I passed out." He said, "When I woke up, I was in the hospital, strapped down to the table, and they had taken all my internal organs out, and they were all sitting beside
Oh
me."
God.
He said, "They couldn't give me any morphine, they couldn't give me anything because of what they had done, but I was full of water, and they had to dry the water out of me, or I was going to die." And he said, "I was strapped down for 2 days," he said. So I'd wake up and scream until I passed out, or I'd wake up and scream again until I passed out for 2 days, and they finally put everything back in, sewed me back up, and gave me some drugs." He says, "So you tell them they're running those lines and make sure they use that extension, because it will come
Wow.
back out and get them." I said, "Everywhere I go, I will tell your story." And I've been true to that. I've told my story
Amazing
everywhere I
stories.
can.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have a lot of stories like
Oh,
that.
I got a lot of stories. I got more stories.
my goodness.
I mean, I find, sometimes I find myself, I probably even shouldn't tell you, but in the shower, and I'll start remembering those faces and those people who had got hurt.
Yeah.
I'll just stand in the shower and I'll weep, because I'm like, it didn't have to go like that. Because some of them didn't even go home to their families. They went to work to clean sewer. They never came home
Right.
because they were not properly trained. So my goal is to give everyone that's going to clean the sewer a fighting chance using these machines.
Do you think that I just wrote an article or newsletter on public works first responders? Do you think that public works should be more specialized, and we start looking at it as maybe as a first responder, because we are helping, we're cleaning, keeping water going to the faucets, we're keeping the sewer flowing, and people take it for granted, obviously, because it's out of sight, out of mind. But could we look at a way to make first responders like in public works maybe?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the guys who are out, they go out and they run these stoppages, and you got 100,000 gallons of sewer coming out of a manhole. They got to get that thing
It's
unplugged.
polluting the environment.
Oh, it's telling it.
Going in people's basements.
Then you got the water guys that are standing neck deep in the water when it's 32 degrees
Trying to shut off
outside,
a valve.
going
Or
underwater, trying to come back up for air, because
Yeah.
they got to get that water
Right.
back in service. Yeah, absolutely. That's a first responder, if you ask me.
If you don't have those essential things, how are you going to put out a fire, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah, you gotta have that.
I just
I mean, that's one thing you have to have. My dad always told me, when he first put me in that manhole, I said, "Dad, I don't know if I want to do this for a living." He said, "Son, I'm going to teach you everything I know about sewer." He says, and you'll always be able to find a job. And do you know why? I said, "No, why?" He says, "Civilization has to have sewer, and they have to have water."
Yeah.
Without those two things, there is no civilization. You will always be able to find a job. I thought, well, dang, that makes sense. Okay,
100%.
sign me up.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
It's so true. We need those essential things in everyday life. Or can
Yeah,
you
it's
imagine?
amazing that we seem to value it so little.
Yeah. It's
No one thinks about it. They flush their toilets, and the only time they think about it is when they can't flush the toilet or the road caves in. Where all that go?
Yeah.
Went down the sewer line.
Well, look, that's why we're doing these podcasts, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about these problems, bringing light to it. Hopefully, decision makers are listening, and
That's
you
great.
know, they're going to change the way they're doing some things, be more proactive instead of reactive. That's the way the industry needs to go.
Absolutely.
And you're
When
doing
you
great
provide
things.
people
for us to-
training, they feel valued.
Yeah.
I mean, we all
talked
talk about
about
the turnover
that.
problem, but when we give them what they need, which is education,
culture,
And
all that.
a survey company I talked to several years ago said that they did a survey of collection system workers, and the number one thing that they wanted wasn't even more money. They wanted more. They wanted training. That was the number one. And that stuck in my mind forever. I thought, wow, out of all the things that were listed, number one was the training because they get no training. They feel left out. I mean, water guys, you got a Class A, Class B, Class C. You can go to the show. You got all kinds of stuff for the water guys.
Yeah.
Sewer guys come in and go, ain't got nothing for us. We got no challenge here.
they have a whole structured system of these
Absolutely.
for these operators.
Exactly.
And
Well, and then if you look at it, not let's move training aside, right? Let's look at the just bringing on a new employee. I think we talked about some of this stuff yesterday. You bring in a new employee, you got a bad apple there, you're going to lose that employee. It might be a sewer guru that wants to do good things, right? But if you don't have the right system in place, the right culture, and the right people, you get one bad apple, and they bring in a new employee, and they get introduced to that bad apple without the proper training that they should be going through first. Now you have a situation where you're going to lose that
that's
person.
where it goes wrong at it. It goes really bad because, Bob's been here 20 years and John comes in and Bob trains John. Bob don't even know what he's doing.
Well, then it's a compounding effect.
Oh yeah, and that's because no one have ever been trained.
Yeah.
And so one day I came out to do my evaluation for a contract in Louisiana. And so I walk up the truck and I go, so how's your truck operating? You have any problems? He goes, yeah, I got real low water pressure. His name was Boudreaux, of all things, Boudreaux. He said, I got real low water pressure. I said, well, let me look at your nozzle. He goes, what's brand new? So he's only running like 1,100 PSI. So let me go take a look because I always inspect the trucks. I hear going, shh, 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 shh. I walk around there, and the caps on the top of the triplex pump, the O-rings are bad. It's spraying water all over the place. So I walk back around the truck, and I go, hey, shut this thing off. He goes, what's wrong, man? I said, hey, did you know that your pump is squirting water all over the place? He goes, oh, yeah. He
Does
said,
it
yeah,
all the
I knew
time."
that. I go, that's a problem. He goes, oh, no, that's not a problem. I said, who told you that? He said, well, the other operator that trained me said the pump was designed to do that to keep the pump cool. True story. And so that's what we get a lot of.
Folks.
And so we fixed his O-rings, the pressure went back up. He goes, oh, damn, I guess I'm not supposed to be blowing water out like that. I said, no.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I used to hear those stories all the time, going out and doing demos with degreasers and stuff like that. You're talking about trying to clean a pipe better. And you'd walk out there, they're running the truck and it's leaking or something's falling out. I'm like, is that normal? They're like,
it's
"Yeah."
always been like that.
Yeah, it's always been like that.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
See, we
I've
used
always done it that way.
we used to go out and do training. I would just show up and do training. But I found myself spending my training time with the mechanics fixing the trucks because they were all broke. And they didn't even know they were broke. And so then I didn't get to train the guys. So now we always try to encourage them to let me come do an evaluation where I'll come out, I'll spend a day with each crew. I'll go through the truck and write them a report with lots of pictures, say, here's all the broke stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's amazing because I've been to some cities where I look at their maintenance records to see if there's any ongoing issues with certain things in maintenance so I can address it via training so we can stop breaking those things. And I pulled up some of those maintenance records. One big, huge city, they had one truck that they paid $500,000 for, and they had $1 million in repair in 8 years.
Wow.
And so I'm in the director's office with all these people, and I'm pulling up all that. And once a truck, all their trucks, they had already spent a lot of money repairing them. And so the guy's looking at the overhead projector, the director, he's looking around the room at all his guys going, I know what he's thinking. Was not anyone watching this? And then he says, what should we do with that truck? I said, you need to park it and don't put any more money in it, because they just kept rebuilding it.
Wow.
And most of the other trucks were right behind that. I said, you need a new fleet. Stop this. This is insane. But what I found out is that cities won't give you money to go buy a new truck from Nick, but they'll give you money to fix your old truck. And they'll spend $1 million in repairs when they could have took that money and went and bought them a new truck. But they're just set up like that.
Right.
They just can't get the capital funds, but they always come up with the money for the repairs.
Well, there's no ability to do life cycle of of equipment.
Right, no,
There's
no,
no,
no.
there's no way
Yeah,
to
there's
do
an
this.
optimal
Yeah.
point to get rid of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Economically.
Right.
Yeah. So I was talking about one city. They're very progressive. I was so impressed with them. I did a Zoom with them. They told me what they were doing, how many tons of material. That I was like, wow, man, you guys are on it. You've impressed me more than any city. And I go, well, what are you doing with your trucks? Your maintenance on your trucks? He goes, oh, that got too expensive. He says we ran the numbers. He said by the time it was 5 years old, we just about paid for a new truck.
Wow.
And I said, so what are you doing now? He says, we just get a new truck every year. Every 12 months, a new truck rolls in, and they take that one away on a lease program. He says it's so
Gotta
much
get a
cheaper.
lead to Nick.
It's so much cheaper. I'm not going to tell you who
like,
their
what's
truck
it?
was, who that truck is, but they were just rolling them in. Had 12 of them every year. They just rolled in a new truck.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
that's
if you can afford to do that, that's a cool thing.
Well, was it cheaper for them? I mean,
They said it was
you know,
cheaper than
I mean,
paying for the repairs. They had ran the numbers on the repairs, and you know, a lot of it was. Now I can't even tell you because then you'll know which truck it is. I don't want to.
yeah, that's okay.
Don't go down that road. But
What do you think
well, it
about
sounds like with anybody's truck, it's probably really a training issue.
again?
a
I mean,
lot
if-
of times,
if-
a lot
if
of
that
times the
much stuff is
training,
breaking in a
except
year.
for the computers. I had a client that wanted to, because I help write specs. They go, well, we really like this manufacturer. I said, well, they said call them and talk to them about their computer system. I said they're not going to write. You're going to have the computers. And they said, well, okay. And I said, I don't recommend you get this truck. My other clients had a lot of problems with the computer.
Right.
And so I always ask the manufacturer. I said, my client wants your product. What kind of warranty are you going to give them on the computer system? It's all computerized. They said, we'll give you 2 years. I said, so you're telling me in 2 years they're going to have to buy a new system? We're not saying that. I said, look, I'm not ignorant. Okay, give them 5 years and I'll tell them to buy your truck. We're not going to do that. And so I had one of those clients come back to me at another show and he says, hey, Rusty, you know, we should listen to you. We had to buy a new computer. 2.5 years we had to buy one. So what it cost? He said $70,000. I said, we'll never do that again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever, I know a couple more minutes, sabotaging of equipment in public
By the
works?
employees?
By the employees. Have you guys, I've heard this story from a lot of different cities, to where it's not running and it's not working. The pressurized hose is sliced. It's obvious, you know, things like that I've heard. And I was just curious in what you guys have heard.
You know, the people I deal with more likely just to maybe drive around the corner and sit there.
and not do anything.
I was in one city.
Wait, they're logging, cleaning pipe though.
I was in one city and they had brand new trucks, and the guy said, "Hey, Rusty, you know, you helped us write those specs, but this truck's not running. The regen system's all plugged up." And I said, "Well, when you activate the truck, the RPMs go up, which is efficient to keep the regen cleaned out while they're running it during the day." They said, so what are you saying? I'm saying your person is driving the truck around somewhere and sitting there and idling in it all day long.
Wow.
Oh, no way, no way, no way. I said, that's the only way it can happen. Well, we don't believe that. So they called in the regen guy. He plugged in his computer,
They could tell the item.
popped it up on the screen, and that truck's life, it was only 6 months old, 5 months old, that 90% of the hours had been spent idling.
Wow.
So they looked at me, and so I had to address the class. I said, okay, here's the deal. I know you're sitting around waiting because some of you guys just run stoppages. So if you're sitting around waiting, get out of the truck, put it into work mode, let it idle up, and then sit in the truck and stay warm. But don't just sit there and let it idle. So you never indict anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Never died
Well, that's
anyone.
kind of a new thing with all the new emissions.
Oh,
standards.
it's
Yeah.
cratering a lot of trucks.
That's
And there's no training on that either. In fact, I'm developing a regen program right now to
Okay.
train operators how that system works, step by step, so they'll know what's going on behind the button. All they know is I got to push this button every now and then.
Well, you're doing great things, Rusty, and you're making a difference in the industry. And kudos to you. Thank you so much for
I
doing
appreciate
that
it.
stuff. How can people get a hold of you? Where's the website? All that. good
Yeah, the
stuff.
website, you just go to nezat.com, nezat.com, or you go to #GuruAPupu. That's my social media. I mean, it's on here, like, yeah, #GuruOFPOOPOO. Guru Poo-Poo, yeah. Look for the dung beetle.
Don't feel. Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey,
on
well,
the
thank y'all for having
podcast.
me. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you, Rusty.
Yeah, this has been awesome. So great stories. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.